How's it going? And welcome to Ultimate Fight Clan. Today I'm going to have a chat about a film called Sakra, starring Donnie Yen. I recently saw this film for the first time at the Fighting Spirit Film Festival, so thank you very much to them for putting it on, and I appreciate it. It was nice to see a new Kung film at the cinema in Cantonese, and again, it's Donnie Yen I've got to rely on to produce the goods. It was also nice to see the Shaw Brothers Pictures International Limited listed as one of the presenters on the opening credits to the film. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that means or what their involvement is, but it's always good to see that at the start of a film. It's directed by Donnie Yen and co-directed by Hum Gawai, who has worked with Donnie before on Big Brother and the Yip Man movies. It's good for a new fantasy style Kung. This is definitely a martial arts film, and it's about a very powerful martial artist, and it expresses a lot of martial arts spirit, and I like stuff like that. There's a lot of people involved when it comes to the action directors and the choreographers. You've got Donnie himself and his team, a Donnie Yen consistent, Kenji Tanigaki, and Andrew Yim-Hwa, who is also involved with lots of other Donnie stuff. So given all the people that are involved in it, you'd expect it to have good fights and action. And it does. But bear in mind, it is a fantasy martial arts film, so there are wires and special effects and CGI. But it is good because it suits the setting, the style, the story, and characters. Like with most newer Kung Fu films, these aren't fights that you would go back to and watch over and over again, as we still do with the proper old stuff. That's no surprise, and regardless, it all works, and they are very enjoyable when watching them as part of the whole film. Having said that though, I have gone back and re-watched the fights since watching it at the cinema, and I have to say, I did massively enjoy them. Special effects aside, I still like the fights because the choreography and editing is still the Hong Kong style, and the effects, they give it more of a fictional comic book look, which I would imagine is what the team were aiming for anyway. Now, I really like Donnie Yen's character in this Kill Fung because he is so confident in his martial arts skills that fighting seems so effortless for him. A lot of the time he's smiling and having fun because fighting is so easy for him. His skill level is on another level compared to everybody else. I tell you what, if you push Kill Fung too far, he will absolutely wreck the gaff, and I mean not just mash people up. His Kung will destroy buildings and villages and all. Get on the wrong side of him and he can be cold, vicious and brutal, and that makes for some powerful, uncompromising fight scenes. Actually, I think I could say that Donnie Yen as Kill Fung is one of the most ultra powerful martial artists portrayed in a film. Now, one of my favourite scenes is when he tells the clan that he's going to leave. He's going to walk off and they tell him, "You can't go," and he just says, "I'm Kill Fung. If I want to go, who's going to try and stop me?" And then he laughs. He knows how much better his Kung Fu is than theirs, and they also know. He can leave whenever he wants to, and if any of them tried to stop him, they would get smashed to bits, and they all know it. So he just gets on his horse and rides off. On to some of the cast. It's good to see some classic faces from Hong Kong cinema in this one. We've got Choi Seung-ming, he makes an appearance, you know, the guy from the Buddhist Fist. Yun Chen-yang, you'll remember him as the puppeteer and Donnie's teacher in Drunken Tai Chi, if you've seen it. And then Kara Wai Ying-hung, no introduction necessary in loads of classic Shaw Brothers films. Ray Loi Leung Wai and Eddie Cheung Sil Fai, both great character actors, so it has actually got some good, familiar faces in. Now, the female characters in this film, I like the way they are portrayed. One uses disguises and wit to outsmart her adversaries. Another is skilled in martial arts, but when she comes up against too many foes or enemies that are stronger or more skilled than her, she uses tricks and specifically designed weapons to help her defeat them. Another uses her beauty and cunning to overpower the men's weakness to resist the female lure. This, for me, is far more sensible than a woman smashing up 20 powers muscle business blokes that know martial arts like they are nothing. They have their own strengths, techniques and abilities at their disposal, and they are put to good use. It just simply makes more sense. It also adds substance and makes these characters more memorable, So good on the writer Jin Young for this. Sound effects. The hit, block and wind effects, they're a bit weedy, which is what we tend to get in modern kung fu films now. And it is a shame, because this is a hyped up fantasy style film with ultra powerful martial arts, so there's no need to try and go for more realistic and less eccentric sound effects. In my opinion, this was an opportunity to go all out and have some powers beefy old school sounds, but again, just the usual weedy modern ones. However, the alternate sounds, the ambience, like Choi Sil-ming's fire fist, any qigong wind, weapon clashes, wooden floor and door smashes, wine jar crashes, they are all excellent and help enhance the action sequences, as they should do. There's times when Donnie powers up some chi and get a Jurassic Park style dinosaur roars with it. I liked it. It made it more intense, like he had to go beyond human capabilities to muster such an extreme level of martial power. So for the sound, it is a mixed bag, but overall, I'd say it is decent. The music, the soundtrack, I like it. It has a heroic storytelling feel to it, and at times it even has a bit of a spaghetti western vibe to it. The main theme is catchy, memorable, with a good arrangements to suit different moods in the film. So I like the music. Story. I ain't gonna go mad on the story, but there are some things about it that I would like to pick out. A couple in the village find Donnie's character as a baby on their doorstep, so they take him in and become his parents. The story demonstrates that when raised in a loving, wholesome environment, regardless whether the parents are adopted or not, then the person becomes a product of that upbringing, and it puts them on a good path to being a decent person. And it's not until things like worldly affairs, politics, greed and corruption come into play that he starts to experience deceit, mistrust and conflict. I mean, he's just a kid, a person that has been brought up by two people who he considers to be his parents. And he has no idea that they aren't his real parents. He doesn't know who his real parents are or what his background could have been if he wasn't raised by them. And it's only when others find out that he then starts to be judged on something that he has no knowledge of. Judged, not on the person that these people have known for years. Judged, not by his loyal actions that he has demonstrated time and time again, but simply judged on who his real parents are and their background, culture, beliefs and way of life, which he is oblivious of. This is something that he himself, he isn't aware of. He has never experienced. This unknown situation has not influenced him or his behaviour with the people he knows and grew up with, yet they still decide to alienate him based on this rather than who he's actually shown to be. From this point onwards, this situation causes him so much trouble. Everywhere he goes, something happens that he gets accused of. And honestly, it actually starts to get a bit annoying and a bit frustrating to watch. But eventually, because it happens so much, it's funny. Me and my brother ended up laughing at how much grief he was getting because it was non-stop. These people have been friends with him for years. They have been through thick and thin with him and know exactly who he is because they have actual real life experience of him. And they are fully aware of the values he holds. But just because they have heard about what could be his true origin, they turn on him without question and treat him as a traitor instead of trusting what they actually know, trusting what's in their hearts. Now, a lot of this comes from influence from within the group, as they gang up on him in numbers, so even if someone was on his side, it would be difficult to stand beside him. They follow the pack. There's lessons to be learnt here. The overall message and morals in the film, they are good. Kilfung strives for happiness, a fulfilling lifestyle, a life that he is already aware of, a life that he has previously experienced with his adopted parents. So he knows happiness is possible. He's experienced it. After all the turmoil, he has ambitions to go back to basics, back to the way that he was brought up, without all the unnecessary confusing drama that causes hate, suffering and misery. He aspires to move away from all the hassle and complications of worldly affairs and retire with the one he loves to the countryside, herding sheep. Now, can this be achieved, considering he's a very formidable, famous martial artist and leader with a complex background? You'll have to watch the film to find out. Now, although definitely a martial arts film, it's also a twist and turn thriller and a love story about finding your true self-worth and meaning as opposed to what others want or expect of you. What truly makes you happy. It also shows that when you don't have any outside propaganda and negative influence, that regardless of backgrounds, left to their own devices, people tend to be able to get along just fine. So as I said, there are definitely things you can take from this film, should you see it as such. The messages, they are definitely there. So in summary, it's quite a long film at 2 hours and 10 minutes, and although it is slow paced, I didn't find it boring, as the scenes are varied and interesting enough they're significant to the story as it unwinds. I can understand why some may find it a bit of a slog, but I liked it because this film has some substance as well as action scenes, but it is definitely a little bit long-winded. The good thing is, when the fights do happen, they aren't little bits, they are a decent length to get your teeth into. The fight at the start with Choi Sung-ming and his men, it's like 5 minutes long. The massive fight against all his former friends and colleagues, it's like 10 minutes long. And the last fight, it's around 6 minutes long. So they are big, substantial chunks, and that is in addition to all the other bits and pieces of action in between throughout the film. So let's have a chat about the author, Louis Cha. As stated at the very start of the film on the opening credits, it is adapted from a wuxia novel called Demigods and Semi-Devils by Louis Cha Leung-yong, or his pen name Jin Yong or Gum-yang. Louis Cha was a very famous writer who penned many novels that kung fu films have been based on. As well as Sakra, this film I'm talking about now, kung fu movie fans will recognise some other films based on his works. The Sword Stained with Royal Blood, Shaw Brothers film. The Legend of the Condor Heroes, which the Brave Archer trilogy of films are based on, with Alexander Fu Sheng. The Return of the Condor Heroes, which the Brave Archer and his mate and Little Dragon Maiden are based on. The Young Flying Fox, which Legend of the Fox and New Tales of the Flying Fox are based on. Book and the Sword, which is The Emperor and His Brother. Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, the film with the same name, and also Kung Fu Cult Master with Jet Li. That's one of Burns' favourites, and I really like that film as well. Then there's Demigods and Semi-Devils. There's a film with the same name. There's The Battle Wizard from Shaw Brothers, and of course, now Sakra. A Deadly Secret. There's a Shaw Brothers film with the same name, and a very good one as well. Ode to Gallantry, another Shaw Brothers film. The Smiling Proud Wanderer. The films The Proud Youth and Swordsman 1 and 2 are based on it. The Nadir and the Cauldron, Tales of a Eunuch and Royal Tramp 1 and 2 are based on it. So that's some of the films that are based on Louis Cha's stories that kung fu film fans may have heard of, but there is a load more, and then there's the TV stuff as well. But at some point, Rodney Shapes will come on to chat about that side of things, as that is his speciality. So we'll see you soon, Rodney. That should give you an idea of how popular Louis Cha's stories are, and the legacy that he has left behind, and how much of his work you have probably unknowingly consumed. In 2001, the Legend of Condor Heroes tourism city was built on Tauha Island in China, and there's a statue of Louis Cha there, which I believe is because the island is referenced in the Condor trilogy books. Unfortunately, Louis Cha passed in 2018 at age 94, but of course he still lives on through the fantastic stories he's written. So thank you, Louis Cha Leung-yong, for sharing your wonderful imagination with us. Much appreciated. Thanks very much.